You know,
Okay.
I mean, I'm just,
We're
you got your dinner made for you. I have to make my own.
You have a green wall behind you there, Tom.
I do. I'm staying at a friend who's an amazing artist. And it's a very colorful place.
all right, we're gonna get started. Kara is absent today and Andy is absent today, so there's a quorum and we shall begin. Okay. The first item of business will be public comment. Seeing no public to comment, I'm going to close public comment. The second will be approval of the meeting minutes from March 11th and March 18th. There's any comments or discussions on those?
I found that they were very thorough.
They were very thorough.
Thank you for the thoroughness.
Yeah. So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second that for March 11th and March 18th. Both of them.
All in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? No. Okay, those are together. I do want to amend, maybe potentially amend this under the agenda under section 9, where we talk about the library director. We'll do that after we appreciate Sam, and then we may go into an executive session. We'll talk about that, whether we need to or not, with David here, and if okay, but Kim, is that okay? Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me. It is okay. All right. Anyway, okay. So now we're going to our presentation on Carnegie.
Yeah. So I'm pleased to introduce Caroline Woodhill and Jamie Kopke. I think Jamie Kopke you all have met here before. I don't know that Caroline's been here before the board before. One time. But so Caroline's the manager of the Carnegie Library for local history. And as a result of our retreat, where we talked quite a lot about the value that the board did place on the archive, and then also the discussion of what we might be doing with the building. We obviously got busy and did a lot of work. Most of which was Caroline and Jamie working with an architect. And then I think Caroline just did a great job of putting together like a needs assessment for the Carnegie collection, the historical collection. So I hope you had a chance to read it. I mean, it's gone through several iterations, and I'm pleased to let them take it away. So
yeah, Caroline's gonna
get another cookie.
All right. Well, thank you all for reading that whole report. If you got a chance to it, I appreciate it. So tonight, Jamie and I are excited to be here and talk to you all about the grand opportunity we have right now with Carnegie. So prior to the ballot measure and the pandemic, Carnegie was kind of put on hold and things were static. So before we get into what growth options we have, what opportunities we might be interested in taking at this very pivotal point, I'm just going to catch you all up on where we kind of started with the building and the collections and some of the investments that BPLD has made since the pandemic in 2020. There we go. All right, so just so everyone knows, Carnegie was built in 1906. It opened in 1907. It is a historical building, and it is the original Boulder Public Library. So that is the first Boulder Public Library. So prior to 2020 and through the formation of the district, the building was maintained by the city and updates and repairs were done as the budget allowed. As it is an older building, it is grandfathered in with older code requirements, but that also adds to an increase in maintenance. So all the staff space, public and collection spaces are all intermingled. There's not really any bifurcation in where things happen within Carnegie. And there is two things that one was in the report, one was not. One thing to know is there is a limited electrical capacity in the building. So what we can do is limited by that, as well as in the group of documents you sent, we saw the lot size of the property. The lines are smaller, I think, than everybody thought. So basically the lot size for the property and our room to work with the building is just the building itself and in front of it. So there's not really room to the sides. All right, and as far as the collections go, so as you can see from the pictures, Carnegie is very full. We have quite a lot of items in the building. So originally, when we were not a district, the city owned a storage unit that housed some materials. And so when the district was formed, that did have to be cleared out. Carnegie has been practicing passive collecting, which means we're not going out and we're not seeking larger donations. We're just sort of waiting to see if people come to us with things, and then we assess those items based on some tighter parameters than you would if you had more space. We have to make sure we can actually take care of and physically house the collections before we can accept them as a donation. As well as there have been some rules like Carnegie has not been collecting collections from any organization that currently still exists in order to make sure we have room for organizations when they no longer exist. We have had to consider turning down large donations in the past because of space. And at times, items were actually deaccessioned, which means we removed them from the collection in order to make room for new items that were viewed as a higher priority. So the majority of the collection was acquired prior to 2020. And the other thing to know is that there was no climate controlled storage in the building when Carnegie shut down. All right, so since 2020, there's been some investments in the building and with the collections. So as far as the building goes, BPLD has fixed leaks in the roof, repaired water damage to the interior of the building, repainted discolored areas in the reading room. Most recently, I want to say a month, maybe 6 weeks ago, the ADA ramp out front was widened. It was narrow and it was really hard to get a wheelchair up and into the building. An exterior door was also replaced. So contractors have been brought in and repairs and improvements have been identified, which we're going to get into further. But there are definitely some physical needs for equity in that building. One of the biggest items is that there is a second floor, but there is no elevator to the second floor. There is just an older set of stairs. Our bathrooms are also outdated and don't necessarily meet the requirements of newer building standards. So there are various maintenance repairs and things that are still needed. One of the things to know about the building, and if you looked at the reports for the architect, the windows, which are beautiful, are the original. So they're 1906 single paned windows. So it's not exactly super energy efficient in that building. As far as the collections go, no worries. There we go. As far as the collections go, an HVAC system was installed for temperature control in what's called the document storage room. And that was done, I want to say, in 2022, around that area. Some collections were moved off-site to Iron Mountain for storage. And then when the city storage unit was emptied, items from the unit were either stored in Maine at Carnegie, or they were deaccessioned. So another thing that's been invested in is there's been data loggers to track conservation, to look at the different areas and to find out exactly what condition the collections are in. And because of those data loggers, we've been able to adjust temperatures and kind of improve the preservation, even if it's not perfectly ideal, it has helped a ton. So, but the biggest takeaway is, and you all in the report, it gives the specific numbers and I can go into that later, but essentially the Carnegie building is over storage capacity right now by about 26%. Right, and this is just, I took a snap of, since I haven't seen you all since we reopened, this was just Thursday afternoon last week of folks in using the collections. I just thought it would be fun to take a picture and show you guys that Carnegie is being used, the collections are being used, and people are definitely happy to be there.
What time of day is that?
That is, I want to say 2 o'clock. It was right after our staff chat meeting. I went downstairs and took a picture.
Cool.
So as we look at the different scenarios for the building, I'm just going to go over the three rates of growth that we talked about in the report. The first rate of growth is continuing the current path of a passive collection growth. It's kind of it's a rate of about 1% a year over 20 years. So that would be 20% total, and it would generate about 898 linear feet of space needed. Scenario 2 would double the current collection growth rate at 2 to 3% a year. And over 20 years, that would be 2,245 linear feet of shelf space. And then the third scenario, which is kind of the catch-up expansive growth scenario, that would be a rate of 5% a year. And over 20 years, that would be 4,490 linear feet. And just for a visual of what I'm talking about with linear feet, we all know, because we live in Colorado, that a mile is 5,280 feet. So if you think of Carnegie's collection, you want to think of, if you think of a football field and a track around the football field, 4 times around that is a mile. And so when we say the linear feet of storage, it's not each item in the collection laid out over that space. It's a box full of documents and photos and maps laid out over that space. So right now we almost have a full mile worth of materials laid end on end on end in boxes. And so that third scenario would be almost 2 miles total.
All right. And I can get up and show you all these floor plans as we go by. So we worked with PEH Architects, who was a subcontractor of Jacques Construction, and to look at basically 2 scenarios. Just to orient us, this is the as-is configuration. Right now, there's 7 staff that work in Carnegie, only 2 full-time employees, works out to 5.25 FTE. There are no private workspaces, so the staff work in combination down here on the first floor. And this is primarily the service desk, and this whole configuration is primarily to keep the public out of some of our collections. So it's almost like a defensive setup. But there's some staff there, and then staff are kind of interspersed on the top floor, but you can see that there's a mix everywhere of storage with collections. We even have collections in the hallway when you walk in. Part of the Carnegie floor is reinforced underneath those heavy filing cabinets, and that's the only spot where the floor is reinforced right now. So that was a design consideration for architects as well. As Caroline mentioned, right now we have no on-site cold storage or ADA access to the second floor. So we put in the packet the overview from Jacques Construction that has each detailed scenario and what each renovation was trying to accomplish. This first one, the scenario largely, it actually doesn't add a lot of room for increasing collection space. It does add a few things. It would give us an on-site cold storage, which, Caroline, do you want to tell them why that's a needed thing?
Yes, so cold storage is incredibly important. We have a large photographic and negative collection at Carnegie. We also have film, and those items are made of less stable material. And so it kind of goes back to basic physics. When things are hot, they move quickly, so they're more likely to deteriorate. So when we cool those items that are unstable down, it slows all the molecules down, and the deterioration and the deterioration slows and the conservation increases. So there's more access for people for a longer period of time.
So in this scenario, I'll just kind of point out some of the highlights, but they're in purple. So the vestibule is reorganized. There's some things that, you know, are more invisible, but help the functionality of the space, including removing the wall radiator that goes around, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but we can't even put exhibit cases against the wall because there's a bumper that goes all the way around the building right now. It would reconfigure the service desk to be a smaller footprint. And then you can see it removes the heavy filing cabinets from the hallway and condenses them all. This is the area where the floor is reinforced, and then makes us a separate room where actually staff can also go in and work a little bit on collections assessment. It also creates 2 office spaces on the first floor. And in this scenario, there's a dumbwaiter so that staff can bring collections to the second floor because they do a lot of collection assessments. So that's like laying out all the materials as they're cataloging everything. and they need a lot of space to do that. That usually happens on the second floor, so that will allow them to do that without having to lug boxes up and down, which is the current state of affairs right now. It also creates a break room, an office for Caroline, for the manager. There is no private workspace right now. And it would reconfigure the bathrooms a little bit to also update those as well.
Interject real quick.
Yeah.
So scenario one, does that match with option one? Yeah, okay.
So the construction's estimate for the build out of that is 3.7 to 4 million to do that scenario.
What does it mean when you say cold storage added to first floor? What does that look like?
It is a space right over here. So they basically have reconfigured where the restrooms are. And there's a back room where there's some IT storage right now. So they reconfigured it to make a walk-in and storage so that we could improve the temperature control of those materials.
Okay, so that's not movable. That's not like a big cool cabinet. That's something we're doing to the building. Okay.
That's a creepy room right now.
Yes. And then option two.
Can I ask, what is dumbwater?
Dumb waiter.
Oh, I thought it was water. Okay, that's, now I got it. I know what a dumbwaiter is. I thought I said water. Sorry, got it.
Scenario two, we asked the architects to reimagine what would it look like if we took almost all of the collections off-site. And so this construction cost is just to know, it's just the construction cost. So what that wouldn't include is cost for a facility to store the materials, probably increased staffing because somebody would have to make an appointment. We'd have to pull materials, bring them to Carnegie for people's appointments, bring them back to the offsite storage facility. So in this scenario, we would have a few collections on site, more things that are like, you know, of interest that aren't as precious so that the front room can become much more of a multi-purpose use. So in this, you can see there's still a few bookcases here, but largely the space becomes a flexible area, and removing the reading room, which is what this room is called right now, would go into the place where the storage currently is. So the architects have reconfigured it. You can't quite tell from the ramp. You would come in if you needed ADA access through here, and then they have reworked this. This is, if you've been in this room, it's actually sunken. And so there's stairs down there now. So to get people down to it, they had to kind of do a little creative magic with getting a ramp there for people to get down into this. But this would become the reading room so that it becomes its own separate. There would be a door separating this front room from the back so that this room could be more flexible. So imagine a typical program where people might have craft supplies or making. We can't have food right now in Carnegie. It's just pencils that are allowed there. So you have a lot more opportunities for things to happen in here. And Caroline's going to talk a little bit about our specific vision, which is pretty cool and we're excited about. And in this scenario, we would have a full ADA access elevator, and that's primarily because you can see the offices would not be here. Staff would primarily work on the second floor. So in order to have staff access that, we need a full service elevator. We would have the break room, and then you see a couple of offices to the side, in addition to some smaller touchdown desks and the collections assessment area. Also, just to note right now, in the scenario of volunteers, Carnegie has a very robust volunteer program, but they're all intermingled too. So the staff are trying to work and maybe sometimes have conversations, and volunteers are just there. So this would create a volunteer, basic, like a workroom for them to do digitization on the first floor. And then it also keeps the cold storage that we already discussed. And then Caroline's going to talk about this. This is a soundproof recording booth and smaller service desk again on the front. Caroline, take it away.
All right. So one of the things we looked at as we're looking at this opportunity of what Carnegie can be for the community in the next 20 years is we looked at the idea of a memory lab. And a memory lab is much like a makerspace for history. And we've seen what a strong demand the makerspaces have here in the Boulder community. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to explore it as a possibility. So the memory lab would essentially take the passive experience of local history preservation, and it could make it partially or even wholly a community-led activity. And so what that would mean is we would have specific items in the memory lab that could help people preserve their history. So we would have a digitization and viewing station potentially for cassettes, LPs, home movies, in all formats. We have folks come in who have 8mm film or Super 8, and they want to know if they can watch it just to see what's on the film. They could digitize that film. They could digitize slides and negatives. We would also have items to help folks convert files for long-term storage, bulk and oversized scanning, which we've had people ask for. And we actually, when somebody needs a copy of a map, we have to send out and pay for now. So it would, or the person pays for, unless it's for us, then we would pay for it. So it would help on that end as well. An overhead scanner for fragile items. Another thing that we think would be interesting would be an area for public hands-on presentations. We did a Antique Care Roadshow this year with the Makerspace, and we had a lot of folks that came in with old photos, with documents, with letters and things asking us, how do we preserve these? How can I take care of my family's memories? And so this would be something that we would be able to give workshops on in addition to doing other public programming. There could also be a family history publishing center, and also it could be a hub for community building through the gathering and sharing of stories. So one of the most amazing jewels we have here is our Maria Rogers Oral History Program. And currently, it is one of the premier public library oral history programs in the country. What it does is excellent, and it has no permanent home where the folks can come and record oral histories. So our oral history coordinator, Sins, is always working to find places that will work. If we had a recording booth, not only would we always have a space available for folks to come and record their oral histories with this program, but we could also have it available to the public to record podcasts, for children to make presentations, whatever folks would want to use it for. So it really gives us a broad opportunity to bring the community together and kind of bring people into the building hands-on in a way we haven't done before.
Can I ask, how many hours a week does the recording of oral histories currently involve at Carnegie?
So they're not recording at Carnegie, and it is the volunteers that are recording. I would say it's not a ton of hours. There would be a lot of availability to the public. It's based on the individuals and when they're available. So we did one interview with a gentleman. I was here. We used a Framery pod a couple of weeks ago, and that was a 3-hour interview, and it was only the first half. But then I think there's only been one other one that may have been an hour since then. So it's a constant process, and it's usually based on the actual person the narrator and one of our volunteers who is interviewing them. So they can also happen in spurts with availability. There's times of the year where people just aren't recording. So
Can you say what makes it a premier oral history?
yes. And I spoke with our oral history coordinator before I came here to see if I could say that phrase. She said that was accurate. So there are not a lot of public libraries in the oral history space. The access the public has to our oral histories is really not like anything you get at a private institution. On top of that, our oral histories, our earliest recording was in 1976. So we are coming up on 50 years of oral history recordings. And we have an incredibly robust volunteer program that goes along with it. So we have different people in the community who interview other people that they connect with. And so it's not just Sins doing the interviewing. So we're able to generate a lot more interviews and make a lot more stories available to the public with a smaller staff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So third scenario for consideration would be looking at a new site for Carnegie. And that scenario would allow for growth of the archive and some of the models that Caroline outlined at the beginning. The collections in the archive could exist in the same space, which some of the scenarios we just shared don't allow. Things like the memory lab, exhibitions, and program space could be incorporated in a thoughtful manner. It could be connected to, we've been talking about the future of Meadows, neighborhood library for enhanced cross traffic. One of the challenges that Carnegie faces right now is neighborhood parking. There is no parking for Carnegie, so even staff, Caroline was walking over here tonight and her car's parked over here, but staff are walking back and forth all the time too. But it's hard to have programs or big gatherings right now at Carnegie because that's a pain point for that building. And a space that would be fully ADA accessible for staff and patrons. One of the things we'd obviously lose is the connection to the beautiful historic building that it's in right now. So.
All right, so as we are looking at all of this information, the future direction of the archive directly influences its physical needs and vice versa. The physical needs will directly influence what services we are able to offer and what are we able to collect. So in the future, we may want to offer that memory lab. We may want walk-in research, which would require all of the collections to be on site, which the first two scenarios do not make it possible for all the collections to be on site. We may want appointment-only research, which is what that second scenario, that option 2 that Jamie posted, where the collections are all off-site in the reading room is in the back. We would, when somebody comes in, we would have to plan ahead of time what they would like. Usually takes at least an hour to pull and to research into what they need. So that would all have to be planned in advance. Do we want lectures, exhibits, workshops? There really is, there's a lot of options for us to consider in the future. And then we want to look at what we want to collect. Do we want to switch to active collecting versus passive collecting? We already have started surveying the current gaps and silences in our archive that are due to limited space and staffing. So for example, we may want to collect Boulder's cultural scene from the 1950s onward. We may want to focus on underrepresented voices and communities in our current collections. Boulder's going to probably have a new film scene with Sundance. So that's an opportunity if we want to start collecting physical film of Boulder filmmakers. I mean, if that's a direction we want to go in, that's something we should consider. And we do not have a direct connection with the city for all of their documents. If that's something people are interested in collecting, that's something to look at as well. So where do we want this opportunity to lead? So how do we want to position Boulder Public Library District's local history, library, and archive to best connect the people we serve with the information and ideas within it? How can we transform lives by connecting the people of Boulder County with local history? How do we position the archive to help strengthen our community? And how can we transform the collecting of local history and bring people together? So I guess that's what we're looking at today.
Beautiful photo.
Thank
Love
you.
it.
That was from a class visit earlier this year.
I like that kid with the hat.
They were so fun.
Somebody's son. He is probably. So a couple questions. One, talk about the museum and the relationship to the museum next door. And then the university. I wondered about what overlap there might be with CU.
Yeah. So with Museum of Boulder, we are home to their archival collections. So we care for and make their collections available to the public for research. I will say their collections are incredibly popular. They have a ton of information in them and they're used quite frequently. They really are a wonderful gem to have on permanent loan. And as far as CU, we are in regular contact with them. And so we talk to them regularly about things we may have. If somebody donates something that better belongs to CU, we will transfer the ownership to them and they will do the same for us. So we have a very strong reciprocal relationship with them. So there's not a ton of duplication. We all work pretty well together.
Does CU keep their things here in Boulder? Or are they in Denver?
I don't know how much offsite storage they may have. They might have some offsite storage. I would assume so.
Just wondered. And then the Museum of Boulder, what are the popular things that people like to check out or see or?
Well, the Museum of Boulder used to be the Boulder Historical Society. So everything they collected when that was founded, especially by Paddock, there's a lot of old photos and letters and correspondence. And it's a wonderful, wonderful collection. A lot of Boulder history.
And is that kept in, excuse me, in a separate location? That's my last question.
No, we have that in Carnegie.
But you don't keep it all, like, if you want to see something that's from the Historical Society or it's not, it's just labeled?
It's labeled, yes. We use the call numbers to distinguish what belongs in what collection. And when people
Okay.
come in, they'll ask about a topic, doesn't matter what collection
Okay.
it's from.
I'm done. Thank you.
So just looking at those three options, I mean, do the two of you have like a preference at this point? Like you're leaning towards one option or another?
David and
Is that-
Caroline and I might all, I mean, I personally think the best opportunities in looking for a new site because it allows us to grow and be more innovative in our approach for people with history.
This is gonna sound like a cop-out. I don't have a favorite one. I am just really happy to be doing what I do and I'll do it wherever. Would love to see more space to collect more though, regardless of what we do. More collecting space would be wonderful.
Yeah, one and two don't really offer options for expanding the collection without a hidden cost, right? So if we moved all the collections offsite, there is a cost associated with that, which is not reflected in any of this. And neither one and two have parking, which is gonna.
I have a bunch of others, but I'll.
No,
No, okay.
Well, but yeah, go ahead.
No, go.
My big overall question is what decision, or do you want us to make a decision about this
There's
tonight?
no decision to be made.
Okay.
I am interested in the feedback because
Okay.
it's not a budgeted item.
Yeah.
None of this is budgeted in 2020.
So I was just looking at, there's this survey that was done, that looks like 180 some people were surveyed. Do we have a sense of like, what would the community want? Like, do we have any idea? I mean, if we said we're moving out of the Carnegie building and we're going to this other place, I mean, is the community gonna be all right with that? Like,
No, they'll freak out. I mean,
Yeah, that's-
it's understandable. So there's a strong emotional attachment to the original Carnegie building. It's a beautiful building. It has stone gutters. They built it for $10,000 total. It's a remarkable building. It is unfortunately, it may have other uses that could be community uses that would not necessarily be that of a historical archive because its role currently was re-envisioned in 83 or 87 as the archive. They outgrew it in 84 or 88. It was oversubscribed.
and this is my last one. promise.
Ask
Um,
three questions you
And
want.
my next question is, so what kind of timeline are we looking at? Like, is this just in the exploratory phase or is there like a plan to decide at some point?
Well, our next strategic plan will begin in 2026. I think we need to probably identify an outcome there. I mean, currently, as Jamie alluded to, we are looking for property in Boulder to perhaps get when our lease expires for Meadows. And so that is something that if, there's a lot of office space inventory available right now for sale. And should a building in the right spot with the right amount of space present itself, I think that would be a serious consideration. That's kind of what we talked about at the retreat and set aside money for the acquisition or the down payment on the acquisition of a property for offsetting Meadows. I mean, that would also have a parking lot. Obviously, we would hopefully go into a parking lot.
Sylvia, I just want to add too about the, potential reaction of people. There's a very strong, dedicated group of users right now, but I think what we don't know is all the people who have never discovered Carnegie, but once there's a memory lab or there's a great program on how to preserve your family photos, so many people will get exposed to it that never have a chance to.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
180 people who filled out the survey, and I'm so appreciative of them.
Yeah.
that did.
Absolutely.
They all had an appointment. They mostly all got an appointment, so there's a high level of satisfaction. Like
Right.
they,
Right, no, there
They got-
definitely is.
they got, they did.
Great.
Tom,
Oh,
Tom,
Go ahead.
let Tom.
Okay.
Tom, go ahead.
Thanks. Well, first of all, I want to
You're
thank
on
you guys.
mute though. Oh, no, I don't hear you.
You don't hear me?
That might
No.
be our problem.
I'm not on mute.
Which one did you click last time?
Hey,
Let's go
can you
back
hear me
and
now?
forth, Then it works.
All right, go ahead, Tom.
So hang on, I didn't go back.
Can you hear me? Hello?
There you go.
No? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
First of all, I want to thank you guys for this, putting all this work into this, all the research with it, really thorough, super appreciate it. I look at this and I think we have to separate the archives from the building. And, that's a simple way to say it, but that's just the truth. Boulder's an aging community, and the people who want to use this as they age can't get in the building, can't park near the building, on and on it goes. We're not serving the public. And so I think we've got to, and we don't own the building, right? The city still owns the building, or do we own it?
No, the city owns it.
Yeah. So to me, it's like, and we talked about this in the retreat. We've talked about it several times about looking to combine the space that we get for a new Meadows with this. I just think we should prioritize that. Let the expansion grow. Do things like this memory lab, just brilliant. I mean, again, the number of people who are racing around trying to record elder parents right now that are heading into dementia or have it a little bit, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
So I think we'd serve the community really well with that. And then we can kind of leave the question of what the building becomes over time. I mean, none of this is going to happen fast. And to somebody's point, Sundance coming, other things, it's a beautiful building. It'll get used in a public way. We may even still be a part of it, but we're not going to have a real archives that represents and carries forwards for decades when we're already 4 decades behind with the current building and what it can hold.
Yeah.
Good point.
Totally said everything at the retreat, but I'll say it again. It's super exciting to think about combining Meadows with a 21st century archive, a memory lab, and all this way we can connect the community to our own history, which is slipping through our fingers given our current limitations. That's my belief. And I honor you and your staff for creating this great presentation and for working around the ancientness of the building. But I think we have to move on, and the city will do something cool with it because it's an important part of our local history, but it can't be our responsibility going forward, maybe for a few more years. But I think we need to leave and do something better for the community. And I think you've laid out a vision for that tonight. So I'm super positive about it. And at some point, y'all can talk about how to work that into the budget for the Meadows. Yeah, but I think it can be done,
Have you finished?
Yes, I have finished.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Tom, do you still have another question or? is
Oh,
your
no.
hand- Okay.
Oh, there we go.
So I'm just to understand the options then, it looked like option 1 was sort of update the building, keep the collection there. Option 2 was kind of a way for you to expand the collection, maintain the space at Carnegie. Like if we wanted to do that, like if we're so committed to that building, I'm not hearing a lot of that here. I love that building, or I'm connected to that building, but also I'm
Thursdays there, right?
I'm also realistic about well, I think it has a sentimental value to the community, and I think
Yeah.
everybody thinks that. So and then option 3, I think as a board, we've already kind of coalesced around that. And there's a lot of agreement that if we want you to like have a what century you're in, 21st century 2025 collection, then and do the thing and make history important in Boulder, we're gonna have to have a space that accommodates that. And I think it only makes sense to do it with another branch, you know? I think that would be helpful. Yeah, some people have mentioned combining it with CU. I don't, do they have, I know Benita kind of asked this question.
No, I didn't, that was not my suggestion.
No. Some people have suggested to me
Okay.
outside of this meeting, that like, does CU have a history space
And
archive?
Yeah.
But I doubt they would,
No, they serve the whole state. I think we'd get lost.
lost or they'd have even space for us even.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
okay.
And
Not
we get,
enough.
we get cut in a budget on that case, so.
Yeah.
So
Um,
I just said one more thing. I like the idea of something south and east geographically, and being in another part of where our growth is too. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I wanted to ask about this JOC construction in this proposal. And I just wondered, were these the folks that we met at that conference at this summer? Is that where they come from?
They are a contractor who we've worked with numerous times with the city when we were with.
Okay, no, that's not,
I don't believe,
because there was that contractor who,
and PEH is also a local Boulder
okay,
architectural firm that's been around for a couple of decades at least.
Okay.
And has previously gotten a contract with Carnegie, I
I was
think.
just thinking about that consultant that had worked with other Carnegie libraries. And so that's what I was thinking. That's what this group, but maybe not. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, if we were doing a renovation of Carnegie,
Yeah.
it was definitely on the table. That was not what we were looking at pricing out what the cost of making the building more, well, you saw what we were trying to do, but yeah, if we put a Carnegie building up for an architectural bid, we'd have a lot of bids because every architectural firm in the state would like to work on that Carnegie library.
Then it begins to create a buzz too about what we're doing.
So I think, from the retreat, we asked, what's the space needs and what's the collection needs? And I think you guys have, in my opinion, provided that to us as a board. I think at the time, and I think this commits, it sounds like hearing from everyone are sort of belief that maybe another space is better than Carnegie for a modern historic collection. I'm just trying to wrap kind of the conversation into the full thing. So I think,
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys surfacing that publicly for the meeting.
yeah,
I think there's a lot of PR that's going to have to go into a transition. And I think it's probably best if we manage this through the new strategic plan that will begin in 2026. I think it'll have to be framed partially within that conversation because it's not going to be easy for some members of the community to relinquish what has been a history for
I think my other concern though is,
15 years, 117.
while we're in stasis until 2026 and then probably beyond, right? So on the collection, so, maybe think about, my thought would be, maybe think about, is there a way until that process that we don't have to like get rid of, materials or, that.
Yeah, we haven't deaccessioned anything since we've been a district.
Okay.
I mean, we get rid of things all the time that are not Boulder County.
But then you could also expand your mission, expand a little bit,
We will be, there's some space that's in the basement here that we're expanding for, because the facilities workshop has moved out, and so we are creating some space, additional storage space. It's not much, but it's, I don't know,
650.
400, or is it
I
600?
think it was like 600. I don't know.
600 linear feet. That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So we'll have more space here in the basement of this library, which again is not an ideal place to store historical documents because we're in a high hazard flood zone, but for temporarily, we will be able to offset some of that.
Have we looked at historic preservation grants?
We haven't recently. I guess we were wanting to see what everybody wanted to do with the building, because a lot of that goes into, or at least the ones I'm familiar with, go into like new HVAC systems, the cold storage, things like that. So I think potentially wherever things wind up, there could be a chance for grants. But I don't know in our temporary situation as we decide which way to go, if there's anything that would be able to help us. They're usually pretty permanent.
It is the city's building. Yeah. Okay.
Tom, did you have another question? Or,
I did.
okay.
David, do we have a broker that we're actively working with looking for space, given there's so much empty office space in town?
Yes,
Who is that?
it's with Remax. The name of the broker is Tyler Dock.
So do they come to you weekly with, here's some options, or how often do you hear from them? What
Oh,
options
I
might
got
be out there?
I got 7 properties last week. Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah, there's a lot of empty office space around. Unfortunately, we have defined a rough region for, and I don't think I mean, it's premature to even talk about it, but we don't want to move Meadows far from where it is. But we have defined a much larger area within which we're looking. And that could, depending upon where we find space, then obviously there's a lot of review process. And it's not like people are clamoring for them. There's everything under 100,000 square feet is just sitting there and nobody locally is buying it up, right? So
Right.
the office space is sitting empty. So that there's a lot of options. It will matter, ideally, it's not too far from Meadows. If it's far from Meadows west, that has an impact on some other facilities that we have. And if it's far to the north, that may impact the Meadows community as well.
So, but you referenced the Meadows community.
Yeah.
Do we have actual data that has plotted them on a map as to who comes, what the users are there?
We do. It's the second largest. It's
I
the
know it's
second
the second
largest user
largest, but
base.
like where are people coming from?
Fraser Meadows.
Well, no, it's both sides of the parkway. So there's a lot of families and on both sides of the parkway. There's a lot of Boulder Housing Partner sites in Meadows. Meadows is in fact the most diverse community ethnically in the library district. And then currently, the majority of Gun Barrel residents, when we last did the survey, traveled to Meadows
Because of the parking.
because of the
Yeah.
parking, right?
Yeah.
So it was right down the parkway and you have a parking lot.
So,
Right.
So instead of coming into
But-
town, so.
Tom,
But
I
that's
think
because I remembered you at the retreat saying that. That's why I asked the question. And so we're basing a decision on what the geography on it is with really kind of anecdotal data about this, right? And I'm not disparaging that because I think that's often and powerful. But maybe we ought to be engaging with those users as to what's the radius you're willing to go to. Like maybe there's something on Arapahoe that's just as convenient to a parking lot than it is on Baseline, or maybe it's all the way down to Pearl. I don't know. Like if we were down in the Pearl Valmont area, there's other parts of diverse Boulder that we could pull into a library. So that's where my question's coming from.
I think, Tom, just piggybacking off of you, and I think what you're saying, I think with respect to Meadows, at least, I think what this kind of says is, we have the history part, we know what that space requirement is. What does the user base of Meadows, where do they come from? What do they look like? And then what's the space requirement for that, for you to, make a decision, or for us to make a decision about
Well, we'll have to redo the analysis again.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, we'll have to redo the analysis again. We did it in 2018. So the service area population around Meadows was about 28,000.
Yeah.
The service area population at Reynolds is about 13. Novo is about 13. Gun Barrel will be about 16. So it is, and then downtown obviously serves a much larger area, but Meadows was the biggest one in terms of a service population within basically a 2 mile radius. But there's also, I mean, if you're not aware, as the crow flies, Reynolds and Meadows are 1 mile apart. It is about, it's about a mile and a half if you're driving by car.
Yeah.
But so there is some overlap, and the barrier that we use for drawing those service area populations was really Broadway. So Broadway is dividing line between the service areas and which ways you may travel.
Yeah.
Although probably a lot of people go to the Table Mesa Mall if they want to shop at Whole Foods or King Supers.
Oh, yeah.
They go to,
Martin Acres uses.
and they go to Meadows if they're shopping at Safeway
So
or coming from Gunter.
do you think you can have that stuff together by the retreat, or no, you're not gonna
It
do
is
that?
it is a process that both comes in conjunction with the
Yeah.
the
The-
city of Boulder's master planning process,
Okay.
which is the comprehensive plan. We have to see where growth is projected to occur. I mean, there is growth projected to occur in Boulder, but it's not, I mean, it in Arapahoe is one of the areas, right? So Arapahoe and 55th, but at what point is residential growth anticipated there? And how much? Are they talking about 300 housing units, or are they talking about 6,000? I mean, it's a very big difference, and we don't have an answer to those questions yet. And we won't until the comprehensive plan is done. Our planning will coincide with the new comprehensive plan and give us an idea of where that growth might occur.
Okay.
There are people that I talk to all the time about, like, where is the planning for future development, like around Reynolds? There's none, right? So Reynolds Library is locked on all sides by housing and or open space, and that area is not going to grow. Now, more people may live in houses. Zoning may change and there will be multifamily dwelling units, but it is predominantly a single family unit dwelling area. Meadows area around Meadows is zoned differently. There are quite a lot of apartment complexes going out baseline, both east and west of Foothills. And that makes for good density, makes for good library. So
Yeah, so I'm just trying to get understanding of where, so I have, we plan the agenda and the
Mhm.
forward thinking, and so I'm just like, so
for the retreat, we can look at a bigger map and we can talk about what we know about.
yeah, I mean, if this would be a retreat topic, maybe we'll talk about that, but so it doesn't sound like that study, or that, there's another piece of the puzzle will be ready, until maybe next year or something like that. So, and that, I'm just trying to set expectations for us and for you, so.
Well, I think it is still, if a property presents itself, we'll have to look at it
Yeah.
and make decisions based on
Yeah.
what we know currently, right?
Yeah.
What we know currently, I mean, Tom's right, 55th and Valmont was a place that we identified in the master plan in 2018. It didn't make its way to the final master plan because the growth is not there yet, but there are potential for multi-family dwelling along 55th and Valmont, and along Valmont around the manufactured home community as well.
Yeah.
The other thing I would add is if you do find the ideal spot for a new a new Meadows and a history center within that, maybe a little thing like we had in Nobo prior to the completion of the branch would make sense, located in Fraser Meadows, for example, so the Fraser community can get their holds and kids can come in for little story times, bringing the kids to the elderly, it could be a beautiful thing that maintains service in that community that is, a little miffed that their branch went further east and north,
Well, that's kind of where I was going is, if it's next door, that's a no-brainer, right? If it's a mile and a half one way or the other, then as a board, we have to sort of make those justifications if we move on something. And so that's why, earlier kind of in my mind, is better than later, but I don't think we need to make a decision on it tonight. I think you understand the direction that we're.
Yeah, and it is not, it's not easy. It's certainly, it is complex, and, we do not lightly move a neighborhood library. It's not gonna happen easily.
Right.
So it's, it's a complicated formula. I
I've
think.
throwing out a lot of ideas without talking about how much all of it's gonna cost.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Sam, you're.
Right, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, so you mentioned the comp plan, and just so folks know, there's the citizens assembly or community assembly component that is tied to the comp plan that involves residents of the city involved in looking at the topic of 15-minute neighborhoods. And I'm on the city's advisory group for this process. And and I've made sure that libraries are, one of the components that are considered when you think about 15-minute neighborhoods and access and that kind of thing. So I think that process, which kicks off next week and runs through October, will also sort of inform where people think libraries should be or where, centers could be for that kind of activity. So.
Right. And also great work. I mean, I'm really excited about the mission and this. I know we're having frank discussions about space, but I mean, I guess that's what this whole thing was, but I'm excited about what you can do and both of you and I'm really impressed by everything that folks have been doing. So since we've become a district. Okay, so if there's no more, kind of have to wrap this one up then.
There's another one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Caroline's excuse though. Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks a lot. Love the memory lab.
Yeah, that's so
Fun.
cool.
When I heard about it, I thought, is that a test your memory?
Maybe.
In this community, could use it.
That's where you bring your dog in and teach them how to touch buttons to say things.
That's right.
I have those buttons.
Do-
Yes.
What?
Yes.
All right, so our next item is Gun Barrel Library, and Jamie Kopke is going to walk us through. Jamie is, her regular title is
Director of Placemaking and Programming.
Placemaking and Programming, but she is the project manager of the Gun Barrel location, so.
All right.
Anyway, Jamie.
So for folks who haven't seen, I'm sure you all have, this is the outside of our Gun Barrel branch, former First Bank. And we are still waiting for the permit, but should be coming in a week or two, we hope. And we're looking at a September open date of that. We should get possession of the building sometime in August. So I'm going to walk you through some of the spaces. This is our revised, our floor plan, but first to start off outside, an exciting thing that we're going to be adding to Gun Barrel is a holds locker. And so they have them at some other local libraries and we're going to try it out. We can get it wrapped with a graphic, but it'll give people access to pick up their holds after hours. So as we look through the space, this yellow area is the primarily the staff area. So you can see the AMH machine, the materials handling area, offices for the librarians, the manager, a break room, and storage off to the right. And then that area in blue is our restrooms, which are 3 single stall restrooms and then a nursing room as well. And then there's also a janitorial closet and access to the water fountains in there. And I'll show you renderings and stuff as well. So we'll be able to look at them in a couple different perspectives. Off to the left in the green are our 3 meeting rooms. And the space between Quiet 1 and Quiet 2 there's a sliding door, so it can be slightly expandable, but these are not huge rooms. They can fit 5 or 6 people each. So they're the former offices of the bank employees. And primarily, as you come into Gun Barrel, it's one big open area. We have created a whole children's side. So the shelving in the middle, we call the spine, and that kind of delineates the children's space. And I'll walk you through some of the features, but at the end is the area that can be used for story time. And then it runs the whole front length of the library. So we're engaging with a couple of artists to help liven up the space and, make a memorable space for people to come into the library. And there's 2 artists that work together. If you've been to the Children's Museum recently, they did some of the renovations there. Farah Works and Brie Angela Design. Brie Angela worked on our little hollow under the stairs. And they are creating, they call it the Wonder Bridge, and it's an arched entrance to the children's area. And you can read a little bit about it, but their ideas, these you can see in the vines above the archway, there's trolls tending the garden of knowledge, and they have books made with sculptures and then a tree coming up the side. So that will create the arched entrance. And then just behind it, you can see kind of tucked away on the left, we're renovating a former storage closet and making it into a mushroom reading nook. So this is the mushroom house. This is an earlier rendering when it was going to be more in the center of the room, but we're putting it into the closet. But it'll be something you can walk in. You can see their rendering of like the three little bears chairs in there, and people will be able to walk in and read books together, or just have a magical experience in that space.
This nook gets used all the time.
Yeah,
Every time I walk by, there's
Yeah.
kids in there.
yeah.
It's pretty cool. And parents reading to kids,
Not the same kid. Good.
parents reading to kids. I was worried about it at first, and I was like, but no, it's like appropriately used.
Yeah, and those are the things that leave an imprint, right, on a kid and their experience at the library and their
No,
associate
this is awesome.
library.
I'm super psyched.
So a few other features of it, you can see we'll have some things hanging from the ceiling, some ephemera. There's the troll on the back of the owl, and other items hanging from the ceiling. Down below here, the artist Nick from Ferro Works did a similar design in the Children's Museum, where it's a wood frame and acrylic pieces, and it almost looks like a stained glass. And I'll show it to you in the rendering. We're going to put it on the end where the story time space is, so the light can come through.
Oh, cool.
In the storytime area, we're adding one of these. It's called a Everbright, and it's kind of like the modern day light bright. Instead of having a lot of pegs that get all over the place, you just turn the dial and it changes different colors, so you can kind of have an endless number of combinations going. And so let's see here. The other artists that we're engaging, one of the really cool areas in this space is our old vault, which we're not really doing much to. It's enclosed in concrete, so we had certain design limitations anyways, but we thought it would be a really great adult reading nook. I mean, it'll be for all ages, but I like to refer to it as the adult blanket fort for reading. This is an artist out of New York. Her name's Sheila Geierman, and she's done a lot of installations in museums. This is one on the left. I believe it's the Children's Museum in New York, and then that's the Crystal Bridges on the right. But she takes these really brightly colored crochet squares and makes these really immersive installations. So we're gonna have that on the inside of the vault with a lot of comfortable chairs for people to sit in. She does these really cool light portals too. So she's going to incorporate some of those into our space. And we're imagining the vault as we're kind of seeding it to start, but then in future years, maybe 4 or 5 years down the road, we would open it up and do a local artist, do an open call for artists so that it can be a rotating feature in there. So looking at the collection spaces, you can see I referred to the spine. That's the long one down the middle. So adult books on one side, children's on the other, and then the 3 bookcases that are highlighted there are the genre fictions. And in this space, we knocked out a wall to a former storage area, and on the left-hand side of the room is our new books, and on the right-hand side are the teens and graphic novels. And you'll see in a rendering here, there's a weird bump out on the wall, and we are putting in an electric fireplace just to give the room a little more atmosphere and make it cozy. So another spot with comfortable chairs for people. And then this nook over here is going to be where the patron computers are. So there'll be computers on the left-hand side, the printing station, and then on the wall against where the bathrooms are, there'll be a laptop bar for people to set up in as well. So some renderings coming in from the entrance. Not every, I would say this is the architect's rendering of what it'll look like, but it doesn't incorporate furniture selection. So, and what you're not seeing is a wild and beautiful children's arch here that you would see as you come in the entrance. But as you come in, there's some peekaboo windows so people can look at the AMH, the hold shelf, the service desk, and then you see glass partition to the staff area behind there. And then off to the left, you can kind of see a peekaboo into the vault. This area is off to the left as you look down. So this is our children's side. And again, you can see the story time space all the way at the end with the artists' stained glass windows and the Everbright down there. And you can see the meeting rooms on the back wall there. This is a closer look at that space. Obviously, we'll have more furniture in there. This is a look at, so in the center of the space, you can see in the ceiling there, there's skylights above. So there's a lot of really nice natural light. It lends itself to having almost a defined seating area right below it. So we'll have kind of the primary open seating underneath that skylight, and then you're looking at a view into the restroom. So it's kind of a open shared space with the single stalls. And we actually took this image from Carnegie Archives. It's the watershed map from, I believe, the 1930s of how the water gets from the Front Range to Boulder. And we are going to blow that up into a wall covering and have there.
It looks like Chris is in this image. Chris.
Coffee on the couch.
Your future, Chris.
Um,
Yeah, you look young.
renderings of what the bathrooms might look like. So we're working with the architects to take a blow up of those, that watershed map and have it in different colorways. There's three bathrooms. So this material that you're seeing that has the map is the same material that we used in the main bathrooms, so that it's basically indestructible along with tile.
Good. I was gonna say, strong, durable materials.
Yeah, yeah.
Watershed school across the street will.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Oh my gosh.
I hadn't either.
Love it when a plan comes together. So this is that room that I was referring to. We call it the Carnegie room because originally it was going to potentially be a storage space for Carnegie. But it's got the electric fireplace and the new books and the teen books and different furniture, but much more comfortable, cozy seating in this spot. Staff break room. As you would come into the doors and see the offices off to the left, this is the view into the staff area where the AMH is. And this is a quick look at our budget. So as you all know, the original budget was $2.5 million. We're just about allocated all of it. So to the right shows you more detailed breakdown of costs that we've already spent or costs that we've projected out for the remainder of it. So we're right about on target right now. And most of these are pretty firm quotes. Some of them are, still waiting to hear back from certain vendors, but
Is the vault artist there? Oh, that's,
I put in a placeholder for 50. It won't really be that much. I'm thinking it might come in closer to 30.
that falls through. What came to mind when I saw that space was Meow Wolf. And I have friends there who are artists. And so if that fell through,
Okay.
I bet they would do it for very little
Yeah.
design and create. They probably have stuff.
And I think sometimes it helps if you, kind of show people what you're looking for. That was kind of our model with our exhibitions program. We started doing some of our own to try and demonstrate to the community what we're looking for. And, we're thinking that this will be an open call that we could do in the future for local artists. So, yeah.
I like this slide too, because you're on budget.
Yes.
So,
Keep at it. Stay there.
yeah, so I'm not even sure if you're aware of this, but so about the fire suppression system.
No.
About what?
Well, so we have, the engineers who did the assessment of the fire suppression system have said that the water pressure in line there, it probably didn't meet code for the past 20 some years. They don't know that it's possible, and so we are pricing out an improvement to the fire suppression system. So that obviously will hinder our ability to get the permit by at least a week. I authorized moving forward with pricing it out Yes, blessed.
Might have jinxed.
So I don't think that will be free. There were other costs associated with, the lighting in the parking lot. I have passed both of these on to the landlord. I've not heard back. I don't think they're gonna say like, yeah, we'll gladly step in and pay for, improving, lighting in the parking lot and the fire suppression system. Our contractor did say he's never seen anything like this in 20 years of construction in Boulder. He's surprised by this outcome, and it's obvious that when First Bank did their renovation in 2015, they somehow didn't have to comply. So, I don't know. We'll see. I'm hopeful still that it's just like a pressure issue, a pump. We can fix it, but it may be, it may be an additional, I don't know, 40,000, 50,000.
We're already,
I thought you were gonna say like 1.5 million.
No, probably 40 or 50,000, but that's not comfortable to still have to be in because it's like, it's not something we anticipated, and we didn't walk the building with engineers. in advance.
but it might delay our permit more or.
Well, we will have to get an approved plan for addressing the fact it doesn't meet codes. It's the distance between places where the fire suppression system is and adding them in a manner which is consistent with code. They do not believe there's the pressure of the spigot and the water
Yeah.
to use. Because you also put fire suppression systems inside walls.
Right. Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, dang it. But the permit. Important, we gotta get that going, get that finished, stop thinking,
Yeah, they've done a lot of demo in there, so they've been working on things, but they will get to a point where they need to call in inspections and we won't be able to go further without the permit.
Okay, well, great. This is all, I'm super excited. I mean, once we get the permit, let's. And opening the shoe up, I'd love to send, I mean, we can obviously send those to people, but, get the community excited about that, because I think it's really beautiful.
Yeah, and our gun barrel manager's been going out and doing like meet the neighborhood sessions. And she's been bringing images to talk to people. She meets with them at a coffee shop a couple times a month, so. And then she's doing a regular story time at the fire station too, so she's getting out there and meeting people.
Right,
Very cool.
Thank you.
thank you, Jamie.
okay, the treasurer is not here.
No, but I did correspond with Carr about an updated end of year report, and Jennifer's gonna present on this.
Oh, okay, good.
Jennifer's online and present the memo.
Amy,
Thank
great work.
Thanks, Jamie.
That's exciting stuff. I hadn't heard any of that. So privileged to be able to work with those ladies. They're awesome.
Except for David's piece at the end.
Yeah. The wet blanket. So in your packet is a memo and four reports. The first report, attachment A, is a revised year-end statement of activities for the operating budget for 2024. Due to inexperience, we included the encumbrances in the final total when we presented this report to you in January. So we figured out what we were doing wrong and we separated the encumbrances, which is money that's reserved for something but not spent. And so it shows the true bottom line of what we spent, and let me get to that one. So year end, we spent $29,621,592. We had a fund balance at the end of the year, which includes the encumbrances of $7.7 million. Or no, I'm sorry, does not include the encumbrances. And then the encumbrances at the year end are in the far right column. So we have
Should-
reported these numbers to the state and are using them in the annual report rather than the numbers you got in January.
So that's the capital outlay line?
Primarily.
Primarily capital outlay.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure I was looking at the right line. But we don't call it encumbrances? We don't ever use that word?
Jennifer,
We do use that
we do
word.
use that word.
Where is it?
It's
On the
actually.
third column.
Oh, I can stop over here. Okay, I was looking
Yeah.
here. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Is that clear to everybody? Because that is a.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is clear.
So this is how I want you to report the numbers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But when we voted or we talked about it, we expressed exactly this though,
We
right?
talked about it quite at length, but it showed up both in the 2024 expenditures line, your 2025 budget line, which it showed up as money to be spent in 2025 as well as money spent in 2024. And that shouldn't have been the case.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And it was, we did make, I think Jennifer at the time made it very clear that some of these monies were encumbered,
Yeah.
Yes,
had not actually spent them yet. And so this is just, really, this is a reconciliation of,
2024.
yeah, 2024 based on what the auditor's recommendation.
so there isn't
Some
any action that we actually have to take
Mm-mm,
related to
no.
this.
No
And I did
action.
read your memo.
No action. Yeah, this is just to have kind of the final statement. We also completed between January and now a full reconciliation of our short-term liabilities, which is the money that we hold that pays for staff benefits, their costs. And we ended up having some unexplainable numbers in there, and we did some digging and found that the way we had set up Paylocity, it was double counting our expenses and our liabilities together in one
Oh.
pot. So we untangled that mess and got everything righted. And so it's a little bit, actually, the total expenditures are a little bit less than they were reported to you in without the encumbrances, a little bit less than what we reported to you in January.
Okay.
I
Okay,
get it.
so
going
starting
back-
this, yeah,
Under the section 4, this has the operating encumbrances, which matches this 2306,851 capital carryover,
mhm.
which is that's a for capital and one-time projects that hasn't been encumbered, and then the reserve of 3.1 is the 772,519 down here.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. What's and then the total fund change in fund balance, did we add 1.9 to the 772 or no? No, okay,
Yeah. So this year, we're going to begin tracking our grants separate from our operating fund.
okay,
And we're still learning the system. So we had a little trouble getting the grant fund report to show details. I'm working on that. So the next financial reports will show a better breakdown of the grant fund and how it's used, how it's budgeted and how it's used. So you'll be receiving from now on an operating fund statement of activities and a grant fund statement of activities, and then a balance sheet that combines them together. So in the operating fund at the end of the year 2024, we had a total fund balance of 7.7 million, and you add the restricted reserves of 2.5 million for a total of $10.2 million in the bank at the end of the year.
yeah, that's what I figured, okay. I see
So
that now.
Attachment B is the first quarter statement of activities for the operating fund for, and then let's see, let me get down to that one. So, there isn't a lot to explain here yet. We're still pretty early days. Spending looks on track. I've annotated a few things, just, wanted to point out that we're currently under budget for personnel, where we expected to be that way because we haven't filled some of the positions we budgeted for. So there'll be some savings there. IT support looks high. We actually pay the consultants who run our network in advance, so that money gets spent earlier, faster than the rest. And then capital outlay. So that's encumbered funds. And then the budget that has, we haven't identified projects for yet, but the encumbered funds include the rest of the work on the Nobo playground. We are doing a project at Nobo to correct some of the acoustical problems, echoes and such. I think we all witnessed that at a meeting. So there's work on that project. And then we're going to shortly start on a project to create a staff break room on the north, in the north building, and then the gun barrel library. So those are the major projects that encompass those encumbrances. And then also, I just wanted to point out, you'll see we've spent 57% of the cafe's budget, but we intentionally budgeted that low because we anticipate that we're going to earn enough revenue to cover most of the non-personnel costs for the cafe.
Do we still think that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Let's
far,
go.
they've brought in $28,000 in the first 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any questions or clarifications needed on the capital projects? Because the one capital project about the main north staff break room, that was a project that you approved when, I think in 2023. So the money was, that project just never began. We actually delayed it to see how much the cost, the first phase of the project would be. And there were several other elements to the second phase, which we are not able to afford. And so the break room is one that we just chose to. There was also an idea that they wanted windows on the second floor of this building, which just were too cost prohibitive. We're not going to do
Where is the break room?
it. There is not a break room in here.
Yeah,
It will be over in that far corner. Small break room.
It's currently a staff locker room, and there's a restroom in there, a small restroom. So we're just kind of gutting and refreshing that space. It doesn't have any place to sit right now. I think there's a shower and just lockers. I probably should have rearranged this a little bit. So I'll come back to the part A under 4. Get to the statement or the balance sheet. So attachment C is the early version of the grant budget. So this currently shows the income that was approved by the Library Foundation for projects in literacy and outreach, and I think the maker spaces. Money from the state library if it sticks around for the collection. And the Warner Trust money that you all see once a year and approve. It's about $6,000 for the collection. So what I plan to do under the expenditures is I'm going to see if I can group the expenses by project. So you can see what the literacy project budget is and how much they're spending on things. And likewise have a collection project and a project for programs and events. So it might look slightly different than the operating fund just because I want to show like what projects the budgets are associated with. I think that'll be a nice way to look at the funds. Let's see. There was some carryover revenue in our grant fund from last year that was not spent. I believe that's the remainder of the Nobo Playground money that we received from the foundation. And it's not showing as encumbered yet. Well, yes, it is, I guess. It's under actual, so, yeah. There's more work to do on this report.
It's coming along pretty well, though. I mean, it's comparatively, it's getting better
Yeah,
every time, in my
I like
opinion.
the idea of seeing the programs that are
Yeah.
aligned with the grants. That'd be great.
Let's see, so back up to part A under number 4. It's the section that Doug referred to earlier. This shows how the 2025 capital reserves and the carryover breaks down. So at the end of last year, we had $7.7 million left in our fund balance, and that's made up of the $2.3 million of operating encumbrances. So lots of those capital projects I just mentioned. And then we have another $2.3 million that is not, we haven't identified projects for any of that. We're looking at some HVAC repairs and improvements that might take a little chunk out of that. But other than that, I don't think we have much on the horizon. So it's just money to take care of things as they break. And if the sprinkler system at Gun Barrel is expensive, there's a little bit of cushion there. And then at the bottom line there is the capital reserve. So that's the $3.1 million that I said you would have at the end of the year to be able to just carry in fund balance for future capital uses. So maybe the Meadows Branch Library. So the last report is the balance sheet by fund. Let's go down there. That's attachment D.
Yeah, I would just say I still prefer to see the reserves called out. I think not only for board members, but for any member of the public that's looking at it, just so there's a clear statement of not only are we meeting our statutory Tabor reserve requirement, but we're actually going a little further. And I just like knowing that. Now, that may
Yeah.
not be a requirement of your accounting software, but I think it's a good thing to call out.
Well, is it the way it's shown on the report satisfactory, or do you want it somehow differently? So under fund balances, there's general
Yeah.
fund reserves, which is the restricted reserve, and then capital reserve, which is the $3.1 million.
Is the,
Mhm.
yeah, no, I see it. And yeah, is that, what percentage, I'm just trying to do the math in my head. So we're keeping a general fund reserve of
About 8 or 9%.
8 or 9%.
Is what you said, agreed.
Yeah,
You had stipulated that a minimum of 8%.
yeah, okay.
For that, not 10. It's not, or is it? Well, it might be 10%, or 11 even, yeah.
So the city's, city managers, like that rainy day fund, what was the policy? 20%?
I don't think we need 20, but
No,
no.
was it 20?
It was 20%.
Okay.
That was something that the city
Managers.
strived to get to several years after the flood, right? So the need was determined during the 2013 flood. They needed to have their reserve funds higher. They set a goal of 20%, and they're at that now.
Yeah, so that's probably nitpicky on my part, just to say a percentage or something that,
We're required to
Okay,
have-
yeah,
yeah,
we're
I
required to
can
have-
add that.
Yeah, no, we're at 15, it looks like.
yeah,
Is it that high?
Well, 3.1 of 20.
2.5.
2.5. The 3.1 is
Oh,
the cap.
2.5, sorry. Yeah. 2.5, yeah. So we're at 10.
Mhm.
Okay.
I can add that percentage as a note. Make a note to do that,
But
of
thank you for the thorough
Sure.
report. Yeah.
course.
Okay.
Yes.
And just a parting thought that I had hoped we could have done in the 2 years I was on the board, but we didn't have time for. I think it would be a good idea either for the finance committee or if it's an ad hoc audit committee to try to add a member of the public who has a background in accounting and institutional budgeting and finance. I may have said this, some while back, that we had such a committee at the school board, and I thought it was useful not only for the board members, just to have an outside expert who has no agenda other than supporting the library and asking intelligent questions. And it's a, it sends a message to the public that we're also going an extra mile in our fiscal oversight. Now, who that person is the tough question. That I didn't find anybody and but maybe that's something you all can be thinking about, and that is also potentially a possible board of trustee member, but maybe they just play that role. They come to a quarterly meeting, they know how to review financial statements, they ask intelligent questions, and they support the team and the board in just getting everything as transparent and clear as possible. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I was trying to think if there was anyone who applied who would fit that
Mhm.
criteria.
Well, one of the four that was in finance,
That's what I was.
Was
Lisa,
it
started with
Yeah.
an F.
Ferrari?
Ferrari.
Feria? Yeah.
Being interviewed, I mean,
One of the.
if she doesn't get
She
selected,
has a VC firm.
yeah, it might be a good person. I don't know what.
I'm not trying to create extra
Yeah.
work for Jennifer and David or
Mhm.
anybody. I just think it's another set of
It's a good
agenda-free
point.
eyes
Yeah.
that just wants to help,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I certainly think it would be valuable to have somebody with some
Excellent.
experience. I mean, we have, between Adrienne and I, we know how to get things done, but like interpretation and sometimes little tweaks, we find at the last minute, and we kind of struggle to fix them before we issue the reports to you all. So having somebody that could help advise us a little bit on setup too with the grant fund was a little tricky. The other project that
Yeah.
we're looking
I
at
think it's a
is,
good-
We've lost her.
oh,
oh,
We've lost her
Uh,
voice.
Celia,
Oh, I can
you
hear.
need to do your magic with the,
She's not.
yeah,
she's
she
not the door.
walked out.
She just stepped out.
Yeah,
Try again, Jennifer. Are you back?
hold on.
I'm here. Hello,
No,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Tom.
Yeah, I
See
hear
you, we can't hear you.
we,
Can't hear
We
Tom
can just
either.
have a meeting.
You and I can talk to each other. don't have to-
That's right.
I can hear you too also. So it's just the three of us.
Oh, Kim, welcome to the party.
you back.
All
You have to switch
right.
it back and forth.
So what I
It's a
was
trick that I've
saying
learned
was,
as the chair of the library board of trustees, of how to use the Zoom meeting.
we're working on how we appreciate our assets, and that's something that we're not as experienced with, and it'd be great to have somebody that has some experience and knowledge to help us set that up. So
Okay,
it's not more work.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great if we
I
could find
moved the
somebody.
thing around.
Oh, did it again?
Yeah, I don't know if I did it right, so you please check it. Okay, well, we'll take that, Sam, as I call it an unfunded mandate because you
That's
won't be
right.
here to work on it. And you gave.
Here's 7 more ideas.
A parting shot.
So, okay, we're gonna go move next to the director update.
Yep, quick, I covered the gun barrel stuff, some changes. Benita asked recently about the facilities workshop. I need to kind of get that on the radar. You approved of renting the facility a few months ago. We are now ready to move in. I mean, most of the staff has moved in, not the manager, but the space on Broadway. It looks great. It looks awesome. It was, they did it all with recycled materials from various places, including gun barrel demoed stuff and stuff we took out of the Novo Corner Library, but it really looks fabulous. And they have all their tools over there, and they can basically build and assemble anything.
Maybe before our next meeting, we could do a little tour.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. We could do that.
Right.
We could,
Email you. sometime.
we'll see if we could set something up at 5. Is that too soon, or 5:30?
5:30.
Maybe we could do pizza and eat over there
When
and
are you over there? Sure,
You mean before our next meeting?
yeah.
maybe.
Before.
Well, we got
30
new
minutes before.
trustee coming in.
Oh, yeah.
We could invite the new trustee.
Okay, well,
New trustee will get to see it in their orientation.
yeah,
Yeah.
well,
You do.
See,
okay.
anyway,
Yeah,
if not, I'll go look at it some other time, but
So 3 quick things, and Doug and Sam, thank you for coming to the staff chat. and taking questions from the staff. That was great. They also got a preview of the EDI survey, which we've just completed. The HR department, in conjunction with the EDI team, did a large survey of staff. And we'll be bringing the results to you guys, I think, in May or this summer. It's a good, really excellent results, I thought. The community use survey also closed last week. We did manage to get all of our targeted goals for age, race, gender, everything. So that was remarkably successful. A couple, like I think 1,100 or so people responded to the survey. We did increase the participants under the age of 24 by 5 times from what we did in 2018, which I think is great. And we doubled the participation of the Latino population. So that was also great. And I think the results, I've begun looking through them. We should have that for you, I think in May is the plan, to come back and present the findings from that. There's no super surprises, but it is nice to have data that confirms a lot of the national studies and stuff that we already know about our users and how they use the library. So it's a great survey. Some remarkable things. So I value having a library in my neighborhood. That scored 97% of 1,100 people. So kind of off the charts. And just as we had this earlier discussion, made me think like, okay, like I totally understand. I knew that in advance, but that number is probably 8 to 10 percentage points higher than what nationally the numbers rank. Similar numbers also for being a trusted source of information, which I thought that those numbers may have eroded during the pandemic, but we are still in that 95, 96 percentile rate, which is astonishingly high. Police or fire would typically get around 30 to 40% on that kind of study. So fascinating. Can't wait to bring you all the full results. And then the last thing, we did complete also the work in the focus groups. Thank you very much for providing information to the communications strategy update. And I'll have that written recommendations, I think, on Friday. And then we're going to be revising it through the course of the next couple of weeks. And I hope to have something back for you again in terms of a strategy this time, sometime in the summer. It won't be in May, but this summer. And that's the end of my report. Happy to take any questions.
What was the last thing you said? What report? Sorry.
The communication strategy,
Communication.
which was, I think Stacy was here last month or the month before. I can't remember which.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Okay.
Most of you responded to the survey, which is great. We had over 30 some staff members also participate in that survey. There's a survey question in the community use survey that also is bears on that strategy as well. So I think I'm looking forward to what the written report will be on Friday.
Right. Thank you. No questions. Our foundation representative and executive director, I'll turn it over to you for any comments you have.
Thank you. Tagging on and speaking of David, have you all picked up the latest issue of the Boulder Weekly on newsstands now?
Yeah.
The first of two 2-issue series on resilience in our community. And it's just a big love letter to libraries that has David at its core. And it was inspiring to read and to remember our North Star in his words and in the Shay Castle, the editor's decision to not only do the series, but to anchor the series with our library director. So way to go, David. Couple things to mention. One of our shared objectives of many with you all is getting attendance up in programs here. And in the past week or two, we've had some great turnout with some foundation sponsored activities. We had a new partnership we're piloting with the Boulder Bookstore, where we underwrite half of the cost of the book for an author talk, and they bring the author in. Well, their publisher brings them in. And so we had a sold out Stephen Graham Jones author talk with the Radio Book Club, and Maeve and Arson did a great job with that. And they sold 116 copies. So we subsidized, half of the rack rate cost of that, the cover cost, and that's going to be a really successful continued pilot. I love that. So we're looking to have 4 or 5 of those a year. And then last weekend, Benny, I saw you there, the Multicultural Festival. They drew 300 people, and so that was just great to see. And particularly Esther was serving like 2 tables worth. She's in accounting here, and from Uganda, and was serving dishes that she had made that I guess she's known about, including grasshoppers. And it was just a really, really cool festival with breakdancing. Anyway, that was one of the projects that we funded in our annual grant to you guys. So pleased to see that. We had a little fundraising campaign, the Spring Forward campaign, that successfully raised a $30,000 against a match from 100 donors. So that was a good way to get some early fundraising energy in the year. And then with our gala coming up in September, we've now sold 20 of the 33 tables, but there are still 13 tables available for sponsorship at every level. So talk to me if you don't have one of those locked up and would like to. And then finally, we've been in a hiring process for a new fundraiser, and we're just about we final with that, and you're just going to be blown away. So not public yet, but they'll start July 1st, and we'll have some added fundraising muscle at the foundation that's raising money for you guys.
Nice. Super exciting.
Includes my comments.
Thank you, Chris. That's that's awesome. So I didn't make it this weekend to that, but I missed that. I saw it was on the board, and I've been too busy lately. So okay. Trustee matters. Okay. I think let's do Sam's part first.
There's someone has placed it. Is this a cake of some sort? Could we share this?
Cookies.
They're cookies. Oh,
Gluten-free
gluten-free.
cookies for you.
All right, well, they're for everybody, because who doesn't love a gluten-free cookie? Thank you, Celia, and thank you for accommodating my dietary requests. Thank you. So here, do you want?
Oh, that was so filling.
Cookies of it.
That was.
Any,
Uh,
I mean, I will eat them, but yeah, please, help yourselves.
Well, thank you, Sam. I just want to say thank you, Sam. Your
Sure.
guidance in the from coming from the school board and helping with the campaign, and and always a great spirit and always great advice. I'm so happy that you were a part of this.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to have served with you. And I was thinking as I was driving here, this is my one reflection. In April of 2012 was the end of my term on the Library Commission. And, we were in our 3rd director in almost as many years, and a real scarcity mentality, driven by the reality of, our place in the city's budget hierarchy and the fluctuating sales tax dependency. And so it's like a 180 from April of 2012, it's great. I mean, here we are with enough money to expand. We still have a great staff. We have great leadership, great leader of the foundation, and a good board. So yeah, feels great.
I want to express my gratitude as well, Sam. I think it's like 17 years of work off and on with the library. And that's like longer than most, as long as I've ever been in any relationship with anybody, which I think is pretty phenomenal, much longer than most of us would subscribe to a magazine. It's a phenomenal kind of commitment. And so from the bottom of my heart, I'm so grateful that you came on board with us, and especially that you brought the experience that you had with working with boards, not only this board and working with the city prior, but the work that you did, I think, on the school board was kind of instrumental in terms of guiding this group through the early phases. And I can't thank you enough. And I don't know that the staff are even aware of how much input you had on the development of the pay structure and benefit structure that we currently have as a district, but that was critical work. And between you and Ginny, I think you did a great job. So I'm enormously grateful. I can't thank you enough for all the work and time and energy you put into it. Time and thought, right? It's like commitment. So
I'll
thanks.
miss you.
Oh, thank you. And I'll miss seeing you all, but I'll see you around. And I should probably say, board members, we should lead by example and return our books on time.
Yeah.
I admitted.
And Doug, I think,
Yeah.
So-
they've both been sent to collections.
Oh,
Or in library jail.
like I had
They
to come
freeze your-
clean.
That's what I just turned in my book that I had.
They did freeze
down.
my card down.
That's what it was.
Hey,
Yes,
Sam,
I just remembered what you said about the prospector book, and so my prospector book is in my car, and I'm returning it today. It
Good.
scared me.
It's
It's like, oh, I'm returning it. I still had 2 chapters left of essays, but I'll return it.
Well, I just want to say that it's been a great pleasure to work with you. I've heard about Sam all my years in Boulder, and this is my first opportunity to sit on a board with you. So I'm
thank you.
very
Likewise.
appreciative and I like what you have contributed here and
Thank you.
I like your spirit and the energy and the 17 years of commitment to good things here at the library. So
Well, thank you. all.
maybe your card shouldn't freeze.
No,
ever.
it's unfrozen.
Please.
Tom, you had a comment?
yeah, Sam, I just want to say, I think you embody what it means to be part of a community more than just about anybody I've met in Boulder. And I'm super grateful to have had the time to get to know you on the board. I loved being on your podcast. I hope that maybe we'll have that opportunity again in the future. But well done, sir.
Thank you. And I do have a project I'm gonna reach out to you. We need to have coffee about. So thanks, Tom.
It may be virtual until
Yeah.
the retreat, but I'm available.
Okay.
Kim, did you have something to say? Sorry.
No, I just wanted to say thanks, Sam, and it was great working with you. And be fun to see where this goes in the future, and maybe you'll be back for more.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. Thanks for your counsel. Can I still call you with legal questions?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Charge you.
Yeah.
By the way,
Thanks,
Doug,
Sam.
who are the nominees for the interview?
Yeah, I was gonna get to that in a second.
Okay,
Just
okay.
give me 1 minute. Yeah.
My little cookies.
My 2 bits, Sam, you've got a legacy of serving on the foundation as well as the commission and the district and your combination of intelligence and kindness and your caring service really are your brand. And had the pleasure of working with and around you for many years. And I just feel so great about the hands that this library is in, really, with all of you on this board. And you're a shining example as you exit of what I hope the board continues to be.
Thank you. Now, sorry to get on to more business.
Cookies.
Can you give us a quick update on the trustee meetings you had on either you or Benita? Sophia? Whichever one.
Yeah, I felt like, we had the call with the committee and, they went through and they selected their top candidates that their list happened to align with our list. So we're interviewing, those 4 interviews scheduled for Thursday,
Okay.
this Thursday, so.
Who are the people? Can you?
Nadine, and I'm so sorry, I'm missing her last name.
Julia.
Nadine,
Strazario,
yes, and then
Zia Dax, or Lisa Feria.
Lisa Feria, and then
fourth one.
Cynthia. Yeah,
Peter Miller.
yeah, those are the 4.
Did you get that, Tom?
I got 3 of them. I got Nadine, Lisa, and the last one, but I didn't hear the other one.
The other one was Jedzia Dax Aurelius
Oh, okay,
Or
the
named
Star Wars
Sarah.
guy.
Von Baron.
Star Trek reference. Yeah.
Star Trek
Trek guy.
reference.
Yes.
Star Trek guy. Okay.
Our review, the people who got more than 2 votes are all being interviewed.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, so it literally came out the way our review.
No, that's great.
So it was interesting, so,
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah, no, we had a great conversation and I think they did look to us for, our perspective
Mhm.
and alignment and it was a great conversation.
Record, is it the city? Like where can we find?
I've got
The interviews?
of it.
The recording of the interviews.
Interviews haven't happened yet.
No, when they happen.
Yeah, I can send them to you if you like.
Yeah, that'd be helpful, a link or something. I just see who,
I'm not gonna put them on YouTube, but. I'll
Yeah.
send- Yeah.
okay.
And the interviews themselves are actually going to be much shorter than our interviews were, and
Oh,
even
okay.
last year's interview.
Oh,
They
okay.
reduced the questions.
Okay.
A fair amount.
Yeah,
So-
they did change
Yeah.
some of the questions and I think it's like three
Yeah.
questions.
They just go through the boards and commissions with the city and those are really short, only 3
Yeah.
questions, so.
Yeah, so we're literally gonna have all the interviews done in like an hour and.
Great.
And one of the commissioners suggested or advocated for in-person, so we have one in person, right?
Yeah, I just hacked out
Yeah.
for this meeting to make sure
Oh.
we're gonna have more than just me and David there, but.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
because,
Yeah,
Most of us are gonna be by Zoom.
oh, I was gonna be here.
We'll be in this video.
Yeah, okay.
Great. Well, that's exciting. And those were all, we had a great list of candidates. Okay, I just wanted, before we move to the director thing, we had the staff chat, Sam and I. Just give you a quick update on that. It went quick. They didn't really have a ton of questions for us, more like love for the budgeting process and the programs and there was a big shout out to, keep investing in more books and things like that. I expressed that, the employee survey, when it comes out, is a great place to give feedback to the board, on pay and benefits and all that sort of thing, and working conditions. And then, yeah, that was basically the staff. We only talked for like 25 minutes.
I stayed for the EDI presentation and that was really thorough and very thoughtful. A lot of positives, some work to be done. I think you'll really
Yeah, I think you
like that when that's presented to you. Yeah.
So, okay, so I think, Kim, I think we're gonna talk about the director contract. I think we should, I think we should go into executive session for that, just so we can have, there is a more candid discussion about the review process.
so I leave the recording.
No, you would, Kim, how do we do it?
I think Kim records it. Yeah, I can
Yep.
stop it.
Yep, I'll take care of recording it.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
And-
I
And then-
gotta make a motion though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It's 2/3 of.
So I'm gonna move to the Board of Trustees and enter executive session for determining the purposes of determining positions relative. Relative to, let me just hold on for a second, to negotiations and structuring negotiations with regard to the executive director contract and the district as allowed by section 246402 of the Colorado Revised Statute. Anyone second? Okay, all in favor?
All right.
All right. I think you stopped the recording.